Hello and welcome. Welcome. I'm going to share my screen. This is session number 5, Navigate the Narcissist. You're halfway through. I hope you're learning a lot. It's my 6-week co-parenting coaching course. They're 30 minutes long, designed for you to do 2 of these sessions a week, read along in my 3 books, and maybe even at the end my ebook. And this week's tip is to be solution focused. You're doing my navigate method, which means not doing it alone, getting support, always safeguarding your custody case, moving from victim to survivor to thriver, being in the know of tactics to reduce triggers and trauma, gathering evidence, documenting like a pro, acknowledging mistakes and weaknesses, cleaning those up, stop making mistakes, taming emotions and reactions, staying sane, which is your key because you'll most likely be under pressure, stress, and attack while grieving. You're already heartbroken and grieving that this is your situation and your child's situation. So your sanity is the key here. Your your focus needs to also be on enjoying your time with your child and focusing on what matters, building bonds, trust, memories, love, safety. So this is number 5. So go back and watch videos 1 through 4 and do the worksheets. The worksheets will be linked down below so that you can be gaining insight, writing down your answers if you're doing this as a self-study course. Or you could hire me if I'm available and have me walk through this to clean up. It's like a mindset thing. So what I go over is theory, principles, mindsets. Every case is different. What worked for me may not work for you. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a therapist. This can't substitute for any mental health things that you need, professional help or crisis work. And I can't be your paralegal or give you legal advice. The only legal advice I give you is to please get legal advice. So that's my disclaimer. I'm not liable for any injury. Here are all my books. You can check me out on my website. All my books are available on Amazon. I have 5 or 6 out now that detail not just my story and survivor story, but the actual lessons that I learned and the things that I did that helped my situation. So it's a book of tools. And I also have resources in the back of each book that helped me get through it. So here we are, session 5, cleanup communication. This can be the game changer. If you're not labeled the high conflict party, you're child focused, you're not triggering the narcissist or the sociopath because you're cleaning up the way you communicate. It can be everything. So stop trying to win an argument with a mental terrorist. You are then going into the line of fire if you go into a conversation that is like a discussion or an argument or a defense. So, how do you appropriately manage conflict? There's going to be conflict. You don't want to get into the conflict. So, you have to stop the ego battles. I know you're proud and you're doing more than they're doing, and you see more and you care more, but don't let that make you self righteous because that comes across bad to the courts. Nobody likes a know-it-all. That's what I often tell people because I was labeled a know-it-all because I knew everything about my child. He knew nothing, but nobody likes a know-it-all. So come across more humble, more child-focused, more concerned versus accusatory. You've got to watch your accusations. Your communication needs to be mature, friendly, respectable, and inclusive. You don't want to come across as you against him. You don't want to push buttons and you don't want to push back. If you have any fighting to do, what I generally say is have the lawyer do the fighting, you do the strategizing, because when you strategize you have less stress. When you fight, you're in fight and flight mode, and that is very stressful. And if you've been in it for a long time like I have, you can end up getting so inflamed and angry at the injustice and the crazy making experiences and the incompetence of family court that you'll have an autoimmune disorder pop up. So your health is important to yourself and your children. So if it means walking away to save your sanity from different things, walk away, but follow court orders. Clean up your side of the street, which is how you're responding instead of reacting, and establish the self rules with yourself. Maybe you wait 3 hours. Maybe you wait 3 days. Maybe you talk with 3 people. Maybe you do all of it And that's your rule. Write it down. Because after 3 days, tempers and anger tends to dissolve and dissipate and lessen. And that's a better place. So if it was meant to anger you and upset you, go be upset and angry with your therapist and your sponsor or mentor, but don't be upset and angry back to the narcissist that feeds them. That's one part of their fuel. And you don't want to be feeding them and giving them supply, because they'll keep coming back to push your buttons and trigger you. Your mature responses have to be worthy of, they can't be high school. And I've seen so much back and forth high school, which makes you part of the conflict. And you want to say, okay, what if a judge reads this? And your messages back can't be threatening, defensive, immature. They have to be non-emotional. If you don't know what the gray rock method is, go look that up. I don't know who exactly coined that term, but it's about being boring as a gray rock. And you want to be planting seeds of peace, doing the neutralizing statements. You can look for that work. Those are skillful means, and not always do the seeds pop up. You have to water them, but you plant them first, and it starts with you. You have to have peace with yourself. So if you're got a ton of anger at him, and really, which is anger directed at yourself and guilt, then you've got to clean that up on the inside. You have to go forgive yourself, do a ceremony of forgiveness, write yourself a forgiveness letter, get some of those toxic emotions of jealousy, bitterness, guilt out of you, so that it's not coming out in your responses. And some of the things, like I said, be non-emotional, no supply, no energy, no pushback, no emotion, boring, bland, and business-like. So you're not going to be that super ball that I talk about, those super bouncy balls that bounce off hard surfaces and get higher and faster and harder. You're going to be a curtain. So when it hits you, it flops. And that sometimes means taking the high road, which has, like I said, less traffic. And, you can't fix crazy. You can only document it. So if you are triggered, maybe that's your plan. You go straight to the documentation of what was said on when, and then you can show the high conflict because of his high conflict, immature responses. If you've got a bunch of them, you can show it to your lawyer. The evidence and evidentiary hearings can win against these guys. So be documenting, compartmentalizing, which I'll talk about later. And if you're complaining, stop. It's a bad habit. You got to change. You want to be the change you want to see. Complaining about things, complaining about the narcissist. Yeah, they don't do things. They're neglectful. They are lazy. They don't care. But that's not going to change who they are. And it's going to create a bad habit in you, and your mind is on them, not on your child. Your mind is complaining about them instead of giving that energy to your child. So don't complain, document. And if you have a bunch of complaints, put them on different Google documents. If you're complaining about small neglectful incidents, go put the small neglectful incidents, because then if you have a list of 20 small neglectful incidents, it becomes more important to child protective services, guardian ad litems, parenting coordinators, your lawyer. But the small petty things, you have to, you don't have to let them go, but you can let them go onto a documentation system where they can add up to something. And like I said, you can't fix crazy. You can only document it. So this is important. I know that we go into panic and we also complain to others. But you do need someone to complain to, there's a lot to complain about, right? So find that person that is used to hearing about narcissists, which usually is domestic violence agencies or counselors and therapists. So find someone to complain to vent it and to get it out, but don't just have your habit of complaining, putting them down, shaming them. It also doesn't look good to a judge, but if your complaints are valid, then you're filing a complaint for modification. That's a different type of complaining. And so know the difference. And number five, session five, we're going to talk about offering the court solutions. If you just come with problems and the judge doesn't have any idea on how to fix your problem, what solutions can you see? Write them down. What solutions can your attorney see? Ask. And what creative solutions can you make to meet your child's needs? Instead of complaining that he doesn't do something, um, for example, he's not going to brush your child's long hair. The child comes home with knots. It's not rising to the level. If you confront him, he will take it out on the child. So to meet your child's needs, you braid their hair every Wednesday night so that they can easily brush their hair on their overnights with their dad if they're young. Do you see how you got to get creative to meet your child's needs? And it's important that you be solution oriented and child focused. And we're talking about asking for what you want, because if you don't ask, you don't get. And you don't necessarily ask the narcissist, you ask your lawyer to ask the judge. It's important to lead with what you want instead of lead with a defense. So list the 20 things that you want, even if you only get 10. And it's important, ask so that the judge can see what it is that might be needed in your case. And if you ask once and you need to ask 2-3 more times, maybe you have to ask again. Don't get so defeated, because custody modifications can happen anytime. You can file. We have a constitutional right to file, just like they do. And don't lose sight of what you want. Keep focused on what you want over complaining about what you don't have. It's also about gratitude. So to balance this out, what's lacking, you want to write down everything that you do have that works and is wonderful. Because if our focus is on lack and what we don't have, that can really bring us down mentally and emotionally and psychologically. So after you do this list of things that you want, then write down the things that you have that you're grateful for. Balance that out. Balance is key to everything here. So that's my tip as a life coach and a strategy coach. If there was abuse, I talk about co-parenting abuse, which is post-separation abuse or abuse by proxy through professionals, the legal system, and otherwise. If there was abuse, be able to talk about the abuse. Can you easily spot it and name it? That can be important in your case. So you work with someone that deals with abuse, which is typically domestic violence agencies, therapists. Just make sure that nothing can be subpoenaed and used against you. You may have to get creative, hire life coaches that deal with narcissistic abuse specifically, so that nobody knows you're doing it and you're keeping your secrets to your sanity safe. So that's my tip. My book, Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self-Rules to Stay Sane, is my survivor story, but you can start there. It's getting an update. You do have to practice tolerance and no contact, meaning you don't watch their every move because you're breaking no contact. It will trigger you. So, and Gory Rocks. So learn those key counter maneuvers to things that are often upsetting and happening when you're dealing with a personality disordered person, and don't be expecting order from disordered people. If you have expectations, remember we went through that in previous sessions where you manage your expectations if you're having them. The next book in my series is How to Fight a Narcissist in Family Court and Win, Move from Victim to Survivor to Strategist to Thriver. It's a process of transformation, and it's important that you go through your own healing, learning journey. And every situation is different, but there is a typical pattern of learning, healing, and growing. The third book is Co-Parenting with a Sociopath, Survival and Sanity Guide. Not all narcissists are sociopaths, but most sociopaths are narcissists, is the way that I was learning from psychologists. So it might be both. And when you're in survival mode and it's scary and dangerous, you may have to survive first and foremost. And it isn't just about narcissistic supply, which is, money and image. It could be worse than that. So if that's what you're dealing with, then you do have to take it seriously and prioritize safety. So focus on creating peace for yourself and your child. There is a 1 hour webinar about creating peace co-parenting with a narcissist. If you didn't think it was possible, it is. There actually can be peace found on the other side of war. There can be peace happening on one side of the fence while the lawyers duke it out and have conflict on the other side. So it can be it can be happening. Creating peace can be happening alongside the conflict, and you got to let it begin with you, like creating peace with yourself and in your mind. That's important. So check out that 1 hour webinar. The next video I have is the 8 common mistakes. Stop making mistakes. And I made them, and we make them, and mistakes are for learning. But we are also making not just mistakes in thought and words we say, we make mistakes in what we do. So we need to be guarding against it, because one of the ways a narcissist wins is to destabilize a target, make you jump, run, and get yourself in trouble with a reaction. Watch out for that. Don't be the nuclear reactor that goes off with every trigger. Be the healed, whole, healthy, calm, mature, stable parent who has big shoulders and is not part of the problem, but is part of the solution and child focused. So I have a get the right lawyer guide so that you get somebody to help level the playing field. It might not be a custody battle. This might be a war that you need the right weapon for, which would be a lawyer. I'm in the US, but if you're in a country that has a legal system that protects parents' rights, lucky for you, some countries don't. But I will say, find someone to complain to, like a counselor, a therapist, a mentor, a sponsor in a 12-step program. There's Codependents Anonymous, there's sponsors, but be careful not to use your lawyer as your therapist, because that can cost thousands of dollars. Your lawyer is there to work for you, file motions, deal with the judge, represent your rights, your child's rights. So learn to compartmentalize. I talk about getting a team of 10 in my first book, because I did need that for backup and venting and processing. So find which expert helps with what. You don't want a tax attorney doing your family law trial. You want a family law expert if you're dealing with an abusive narcissist or highly toxic person. So be smart. Your homework is to read up to chapter 5 in the How to Fight a Narcissist in Family Court and Win. Thank you for watching this video. Please watch session number 6. You're halfway through, and I'm glad to be walking you through the mental processes of staying sane. There is a free 7 tips instant download PDF if you go to my Facebook group, which is Co-Parenting with a Narcissist Support Group for Moms. And you can, I want you to learn all you can. And if you learn the lesson, you don't have to repeat the lesson. If you're repeating lessons, it means you didn't learn. And I repeated many lessons over and over until I said, do I want to do this again? And, one definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So write down one thing you learned or one powerful insight gained from this. If you can post below, if it's safe for you to post below this video, I would love to hear from you. What's the most powerful thing you're hearing and learning? So we are doing self-empowerment when we do self-work and we do any self-help. So good for you for doing this program. You want to come out of this stronger than before. You want to outgrow your problems. So keep learning, growing, and healing. I'm author Grace Wroldson. I hope to be a light in this hopeless situation to give you hope. know that you're not helpless, help you with self-empowerment, and give you a lot of emotional encouragement and support. Because I know when I support you, your children are benefiting. So ultimately, I am helping children in alcoholic homes or have parents that are narcissists when I help the parent stay stable, strong, healthy, loving, sane. So be that healthy parent. It does take one only one person to create a high conflict divorce or custody battle, but it also only takes one healthy parent to raise a healthy child. So be that healthy parent, focus on your child, and stay tuned for the next session. Thanks so much for watching.